So, hello and welcome everyone to our next webinar session. My name is Mario. I'm the head of business development at Sensorberg, and yeah, really excited to guide you through our session today. I think while still people are joining, we can have a little technique set up. So on the bottom on the right hand side, you can find the chat. So maybe you can drop just a message if you can hear and see me well. That would be great to get some feedback here. Okay, seems to work. Great. So yeah, today actually we are dealing with future-proofing workspaces. So we want to actually find out how to manage and automate the office, the co-working space, the flexible office of the future, and what kind of technology can be and should be used for this. And for this, we have actually two experts today on stage. One of them is Sam. Thanks so much for joining today, Sam. Sam is a senior communication specialist at Cobot, a leading management software. Yeah, for these kind of use cases. I'm pretty sure you will tell us many more details about you and Cobot. But yeah, we have also Jan here live on stage with us. Jan is also working at Sensorberg with me. And yeah, he has actually become one of our co-working and office experts at Sensorberg. He has gained an incredible knowledge of these spaces during the last years. And yeah, I'm happy to have you here with us. And I think now it's time to kick it off. And Jan, or maybe Sam, our guest actually, do you want to start?
Sure, I'd be happy to start. Yeah, so thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm really excited to sit in on this. My name is Sam. I am the Senior Communication Specialist at Cobot. To talk a little bit about Cobot, so it's a workspace management software. We designed it, or I should say we started Cobot initially to help with our own co-working space co-op here in Berlin, a little over a decade ago. Pretty soon, the software was becoming more and more successful, more and more people wanted to use it, so we pivoted all of our energy toward it. And over the last decade, we've helped customers, I should say, and co-working spaces in over 90 countries around the world. And we're happy to be here, happy to chat with spaces, flexible workspace operators about how to achieve their goals. And I will pass it on to Jan.
Hey, Sam, great, thanks. Hello, everyone. Thanks also, Mario. Great to be here today. Great to have everybody together. I'm Jan from Sensorberg. I'm a sales manager at Sensorberg, and we have an IoT platform for steering buildings. So we've been in the market since about 2013. We initially started as an iBeacon company. We had this platform to realize different iBeacon use cases. For example, visitor counts on exhibitions. And at a point, we switched over into this PropTech market. And we have our own solution for this now. So we're a software company with our own hardware also. And we're active in the verticals co-working, office, self-storage, as well as residential buildings. But co-working is really where we actually come from. So this is also how our actual solution was developed. There was an inquiry from Factory Berlin, the big co-working campus here, one of the biggest co-working campuses in Europe. At the time, they were looking for an access control system, as well as a management system. And then we went ahead and we had the software ready. So we went ahead and found own hardware that we could offer them. And this is how we got into co-working. And by now, we've equipped a lot of spaces actually, and also very happy to work with our partner Cobot because it just makes life for co-working operators very easy. So yeah, this is a very nice way of working together. And yeah, I'm here in Berlin. Sensorberg is also located in Berlin, just like Cobot. Preparing for this webinar was very interesting with Sam actually, because we just found out we just live one block a part of each other, which is a big coincidence. So yeah, I'm happy to do this webinar with you, Sam.
Me too. Our little part of a very big city.
Exactly, our own part. So yeah, actually, we can just get into it and dive into it. We can just talk about the current state of flex office or co-working. Sam, what has your experience been like, maybe also in the pandemic and also the last year? How did things go with Cobot and co-working and flex office?
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about it for a few minutes. I mean, Jan, as you know, and probably Mario as well, offices were a little bit different in Germany, I think, than in the rest of the world. There were never forced closures. We've been able to work from the office, or I should say, workers have been able to work at flexible offices, standard offices, traditional offices, basically uninterrupted. So here in Germany, we didn't see much interruption in the course that co-working had been going, or flexible workspaces have been going. Continued to expand. They've changed, obviously, and this is what we'll talk about, I think, is that the technology itself has rapidly shifted. But co-working in general here in Germany, more or less the same. Around the world, it really varies by region. So Asia Pacific, right away, there were some big changes, March 2020. But more or less gotten back to where they started, and then some. We've seen some pretty massive growth. And likewise in the US, North America, South America, there were some sporadic dips, flows. Demand definitely went down for a little bit there, but as we're seeing the vaccination program speed up, and as we're seeing companies reckon with what it's going to look like in the upcoming decade, particularly with hybrid work models. So companies that may keep a core location, some sort of hub, and then they let their workers have flexible options. So maybe you work remotely a few days a week, maybe you get co-working benefits. We're seeing a lot of people who, or a lot of workers, I guess, who are demanding that they continue to remain privileged, continue to contain remote work privileges as they've already moved, or as they have realized that they don't really have to go into the office very much anymore. So we're seeing the landscape shift a little bit away from major cities and towards, I should say, spoke cities, regional hubs, places that previously weren't really known for their tech workers or for their flexible workers or for remote workers, really taking off, really expanding pretty rapidly. We have a space that we help, or that we work with in Wyoming. They've seen it,
Wow.
And talking with them last summer, the operator was saying that it's the best he's ever seen it, the best time ever for his business. So it really depends, because certainly for some people it was challenging, particularly in major cities, New York, San Francisco, massive markets. They've really seen the dips, the ebbs and the flows. But we're optimistic across the board, particularly now.
Great. Yeah, very, very interesting, Sam, because you guys also really have the insight, because Cobot is really used worldwide. What we can also see, there's just, as you were saying, a really high demand in co-working, also rising, not only co-working, but also flexible office solutions. So what we see also, companies don't really want long leases. They just want to be flexible. So they don't want to go ahead and buy furniture. They just want co-working or flex office as a service, and rather spend their money on talent actually than on real estate in the end. So yeah, of course, the co-workers, also maybe the employees, as you were saying, they just want to choose, do I work from home? Do I want to work mobile? Do I want to work in a co-working or flex office? And I think companies really need to adapt to that needs, and also offer their employees what they're really looking for in the end. So I guess the classical office as we knew it won't be there anymore too long after the pandemic. Also, we see co-working operators. They really are very positive. For example, last week we had this Co-worked 21 meetup here in Germany. So German co-working scene. And all the co-working operators were very, very positive about what is going to happen after the pandemic, because you really see a rise in their bookings. And what we can also see that it's getting more and more popular. So the different statistics, for example, by 2030, about 30% of office space will be used flexibly. So here we can really see that the demand is really rising. Right now we get about 19,000 co-workings worldwide. And by next year, there will be 5 million people using co-working spaces. So it's really incredible numbers, and also shows the power of the market again.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an incredibly exciting time. And I think a key part of all of this has been the expansion of access control technology that's allowed for these flexible models to really operate without requiring, lots of paperwork, lots of keys, lots of management, front desk staff. It's really been a boon to the technological ability, especially given the pandemic, where we're trying to reduce contact and reduce the amount of personal interaction, or at least in terms of things we touch and operate. And yeah, it's been exciting. It's been very exciting.
Absolutely, can just agree. I mean, more and more people or organizations in the public sector is understanding flexible office, and co-working is really the thing for the future. For example, one of our customers since 1.5 years has been the Bavarian Ministry of Finance, and they have a lot of employees living around big cities like Munich, for example. So they need to commute to work every day, and distances are pretty far there. So they need to go either 50 or 100 kilometers every day to work. So the Bavarian Ministry of Finance set up a pilot, 5 spaces around Munich for the people that need to travel very far. And then they can just choose if they work from home, or if they're tired of working from home, they could also just book their space online and get access via an app to the space, which is pretty impressive. So I think everybody's understanding the idea slowly that there's a need.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And also, I would say on the other end of the spectrum, these sorts of micro co-working spaces, I think, have also really been enabled by this expansion of understanding. So in our neighborhood out here, there's a space I know of that has a very small but key core membership base, and they really don't have the staff to make sure that everybody's accessing it at the right times, but they want it to remain accessible basically throughout the day, every day. And they have a system whereby you sign up, you get it, and then with your login times, you automatically get access to the space. So it solved basically the key problem for them in terms of how to keep costs low, but still make sure that the experience is strong, and still make sure that community members feel like they have unlimited access during the hours that their friends and colleagues are going to be there.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, we also get quite some spaces equipped with a Sensorberg and Cobot setup, which makes really sense for them. And we've also got incredible feedback from them. So we get smaller spaces, as you were mentioning, also outside of Berlin, for example, Krämerloft in Jena, or maybe also Freie Lernwelten, and we got also larger spaces here in Berlin, GSG Amplifier, also District 1, using the Cobot plus Sensorberg setup, so they could really manage everything in the Cobot platform, and at the same time get access to the space with Sensorberg technology. And moreover, we also got multi-location spaces. St. Oberholz is there. They got I think 9 or 10 locations equipped using Cobot and Sensorberg, or also Beta House, very, very famous co-working space around here. And those are also pretty much co-working pioneers who came up with co-working in Berlin.
Yeah, I mean, we're really proud to have them using Cobot, really proud that we're able to use the integration and give such great examples of what access control can do, even in spaces where you might not think of them. I mean, I think the use case is pretty clear. If you have a massive space with multi-floor and 24/7 access and meeting rooms, phone booths, bookings, all sorts of things, then it's pretty clear, oh, okay, this would help, so I don't have to manage it. But even in a space, like say Overholtz or Beta House, where there maybe, or Beta House now I guess is international, but when they started, these spaces are really, they're community spaces, and they're really into the values and the ethos behind co-working and trying to build these strong communities. You think, oh, well, if they already have staff and they already have people making sure that everybody's feeling taken care of, and they put a lot of care into this, why do they need access control? Why do they need these technologies? And I think it's pretty clear it's allowed them to focus on the parts of their business that are so key. It's allowed them to focus on being great community managers and offering great services and offering a really positive and fulfilling atmosphere, and they don't have to spend all of their time making sure that the right people have the right access. That's just taken care of through the system. Absolutely, I agree. I mean, in the end, this is also a way how to stand out, how to distinguish from other spaces by digitizing. So if you have a completely digitized user journey, this is really something that you can stand out with, and also what co-workers or members really look for. They really want apps. Actually, they're used to having apps and managing things digitally. So for them, it's also a totally different experience. I mean, it also helps the operators, of course, because they have a better overview. I mean, shifting from kind of an analog space to a digital space really gives them a lot of benefits. They would have an overview who's in the space actually right now, or they could also hand out the access rights. But in the end, what makes this very much of worth is actually that the community manager has more time to just focus on the community and not spend time with administrative tasks. So I think Cobot is a really, really big help here. And with the connection to Sensorberg, you really get the whole customer journey covered. Yeah.
I think that's also a great hint to put a bit more visualization into all these different use cases we touched already. Jan, I think you prepared also a little video which can actually show the variety actually of how a digital user journey could look like in a totally digitized space, right?
Yes, let's take a look at that. We got a space here in Berlin. I'll just show the video here for you. So this is Factory Berlin. We can see our coworker Daniel arriving at Factory Berlin. So he'll be checked in automatically because the system will see he just entered the space. He can use his phone to open up doors into the space. But moreover, he could also just open up lockers by clicking a button in the app. So the locker is booked for him. He can put in his stuff. At the end of the day, he can get it out again. He would see a visualization of the space plan. So he really knows where to go. He also could open up the elevator with the app as well. It's all the same app, or even pay for coffee in the cafe. And we can see him here having his meeting. He'll just get an update that his next meeting has arrived. All works in the same app. So Daniel could just go ahead and book a meeting room actually. So he just booked a room, sent out the invite. Now he wants to open up the meeting room and he sees, oh, it's the wrong room. He needs to go to the other room he actually booked. He can open up the room with the app again, and then he can set the light and temperature, or maybe also the CO2 levels, check them, and yeah, just have the presets to his preferences. Then he can go ahead and just pick up his people from downstairs, go back up to the space, open it up with the app again. And then he'll just enter the meeting room, and the environmental settings will just automatically have adapted to the meeting mode. So this will be like light intensity or the flow of fresh air. Everything is done automatically. So he got 10 minutes left. His meeting is pretty much done. Light will be shutting off automatically. Yeah, looks like the meeting was a success. Daniel looks pretty happy. It's the end of the day. And he's ready to leave factory and gets a push notification on his phone. He forgot his stuff in the locker, so he can go back up, pick it up. And that's pretty much a day in a digitized workspace with Sensorberg. So yeah, here we could see the digital customer journey, which is quite interesting. By the way, all the actors in the video are also Sensorberg employees. Daniel is really one of our project managers, also an actor. And we got the access control live here in Berlin. So this is kind of what space look like, and also the user journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are so many points that people don't understand when we talk about access control and how many things it can do for your space beyond just opening the front door. And it's a great example. If you don't mind, I could lead right into how Cobot works, a little bit of a demo of the product.
Yeah, I think it makes probably sense. I mean, there's already also a question which is waiting to be responded in the chat, but I think it makes sense to cover this after a bit of the product demo.
Yeah, absolutely. We could just collect all the questions and then answer them after we get through the main stuff. So let me share my screen with you.
Yeah, maybe also for the attendees, all the videos we're actually sharing and also our webinar, you can actually find afterwards on YouTube and in our YouTube Sensorberg channel, where everything is available.
Okay. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah, looks good.
Fantastic. So this is the admin dashboard. So if you sign up for Cobot, you have an account, this is where you and your admins will land when you get into the product. So on the dashboard, you get the big picture information about your space. That includes the member total, changes over the last week. You can see unpaid invoices, outstanding totals. You can see the bookings revenue. You can see issues. You can see an overview of the booking calendar, which I'll get to in a sec. And you can see the activity feed. So events, activities, things happening in your space, it's all right here. Looking down the left side of the screen, you can see that we have all the main tabs and subsections of each tab. So from here, from the Manage tab, you can see the dashboard, you can see your members, you can even see a community directory, so all of your member profiles, events, invoices, help desk, and messages. So that's the main core of the Manage section. Moving down, though, we get to the main source of revenue for a lot of spaces, bookings. So this is the booking calendar. This is where you get an overview of things happening in your space, who's booked what resource, and you can get a little bit of an overview. So Jesse Richards here has booked a client meeting in the meeting room on Thursday at 3 o'clock. Looking down the subsections here, we can go into resources. So Cobot treats resources as anything that can be booked. So bookable resources, essentially. Here we have 3 examples. We have bikes, a meeting room, and a phone booth. So places to take calls, places to have meetings, and something that you have a limited value of in the space. Resources can be divided by capacity, by availability, hours, cost per hour, time passes, etc. Depends on how you've decided to manage your space. Going on down, we also have the Analyze tab. So this is where you get detailed analytics about your space usage. We can see this is the Members tab, so you can see information about your membership. You can see information about your revenue. You can see information about attendance. And you can see more information about your bookings and usage. The next two tabs, Customize and Setup, are where you get to personalize your Cobot experience, including color schemes, logos, and a custom domain. There's a lot in there. I'm not going to get into everything right now. But what I will say is that if you want to get much deeper into what Cobot can do to be personalized, you can go and start a free trial anytime, no credit card required. And you can also sign up for a free demo call. So there you get to talk with one of our support specialists, and they would be able to answer your questions directly and help you get started using Cobot. But flipping back to the app, we will just head right down into add-ons. Now, add-ons are where we find a list of available integrations, add-ons, and a space to manage existing ones. There's options here for everything from a tip jar for your members to more advanced analytics tools or invoicing tools. It's all based on what you need for your space. And of course, this is where we can also get a sneak peek at our integration with Sensorberg. To that end, I think I'm going to pass this back over to Jan, who can talk a little bit about how plans interact with Sensorberg and how to set up the integration.
Yeah, great, Sam. Thanks a lot for showing the Cobot environment. Me, from my side, I'm going to show the Sensorberg environment and how to connect the Sensorberg environment to Cobot. So once everything is set up, actually, it's enough to use one front end. Then operators could just be using Cobot and have everything at one view, actually. So I'll just show you a video for this. Okay, right now you should see my screen, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, in Cobot, we would just hit plans. Then we have an overview of our plans. Sam made some plans here. We got a full-time plan, for example. We can give it a name, a description, price it, set the visibility, or also put a logo or image, set different time passes, extras, and so on. For now, we'll just log out of Cobot and hop into Sensorberg. We log into the platform, and then we see the Cobot integration already. So setting it up is pretty easy. We just hit Cobot integration, then we would hit plus, name our installation in Sensorberg, and then type in the subdomain of Cobot. So this was the Cobot space. It's called Your Flex Office. We'll enable access management based on individual access rights and create the installation. If we go back to the overview, then we'll see we're not authenticated yet. So what we need to do is hit the plug icon. Then we'll be redirected to Cobot and we'll allow access for the platforms to connect. And ta-da, we see we're authenticated. Great. Then what we need to do is hit the sync button. So our plans from Cobot and memberships will be synced to Sensorberg. We just let this sync in the background. And in the meanwhile, we'll just go to our groups. And then we can see 2 access groups here. And we'll just make a new one. We'll name it full-time, the same name as in Cobot, the full-time plan, and name it full-time in Sensorberg as well. This is how we can create a group. And what we want to do is connect our plans from Cobot to our log groups in Sensorberg. So for this, we hit the integration again, go to our plans. In the meanwhile, we see everything is synced from Cobot, all our plans. So what we want to do now is connect our full-time plan to our full-time log group in Sensorberg so that our members will have access to the doors. So we hit full-time name in Cobot and connect it to the full-time space in Sensorberg and create the group assignment. Now our plans are connected. So now what we want to do is check out our doors. We want to add a door, for example, our Office B, to our log group full-time. For this, we hit unit permissions, select our full-time group, allow access. It's a full-time access, so we won't change times here, create our unit permission. And now everything is set up. So our member, Sam, for example, could open up doors with his smartphone now. This is how easy you can set up Sensorberg and Cobot just in about 3 minutes. I just want to show you another video of how the door opening looks at one of our customers. I'll just share my screen again for this, because we want to see how the door opening really looks in reality.
And I think it's also worth to mention that we have, of course, assistance for setting this up. So all our customers and existing ones are getting support here to set it up in the backend. And after it's been set up, it's actually working. You don't have to change anything. It's always synced.
Exactly. That's the cool thing about it. It's just synced in the background. Once it's set up, you can really just work from the Cobot environment, and you don't need to switch between platforms, which makes the life for the operator also very easy. Then let's check out the door opening. So this is actually a real Cobot and Sensorberg installation in Berlin. You can just see the member is logged into the app with his or her Cobot credentials. Just push a button in the app and can open up doors. So this is a good thing. You don't need several accounts. Everything can be done with the Cobot account, and Sensorberg can design an own app for you. So door opening is really easy. You can either tap your smartphone against the hardware, or you just push the button in the app, and then the door will open. We also get a nice security feature here. The doors will be only shown in the app if you're also really close to the doors, because we don't want you to open up doors from the distance. I mean, it would be possible to open up doors remotely from the Sensorberg platform as an operator, but as a user, you can really only open doors if you're close to the door, which is a great security feature.
Great. I think it's time also to hear. There's an interesting question actually, which just popped up. So how long does it usually take? David Morris is asking, after, I don't know, a customer reached out to Cobot or to Sensorberg, and after this, what we have just seen is actually working on site.
Yes, for sure. I mean, Sam, do you want to answer the question from Cobot perspective?
Yeah, I mean, from a Cobot perspective, it's very, very fast. So once you sign up for a trial, you gain access to everything in Cobot, and it starts with some pre-populated plans. But usually, what we recommend is one of the first things you do is fill out the actual plans that you have in your space, with an eye on, okay, who's going to have access to where. You know, make sure you're thinking through it in terms of the geography. But once you've set up those plans, it's ready to go in Cobot. Then we would just say, okay, now you have to go and set up a Sensorberg account. And then I think Jan can speak to that side of it.
Yeah, and I mean, signing up with Cobot is also pretty fast, right? You can just do it instantly pretty much online.
Yeah, I was going to say 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, with Sensorberg is quite quick, but we're not that quick because we really need to set up an own IoT platform for the customer in the end. So we need to work together with the customer a little bit, and also get all the door options. Is it an electrified door, or is it maybe a mechanical door? And then give recommendations on the hardware they need. And then sometimes, like, setting up the app can take a bit more time, because we just need our customers to set up their own Apple App Store and Android Google Play Store accounts. And then we as Sensorberg will maintain and push the apps through their accounts. So that takes a little bit of time. But in the end, for the Sensorberg installation, it will take about 6 weeks until it's set up. I mean, the software part can, of course, be set up more quickly, but there's also a hardware part. That's why, all in all, from the first contact with Sensorberg, we can easily do it in 6 weeks, sometimes even faster.
Cool. And maybe another question which also fits to this. Sam, you talked about the free trial you can actually, just immediately run. Is it possible within this trial to have also a connection to Sensorberg already? And is there a limit of members in Cobot on Sensorberg for this free trial or afterwards?
So the free trial, I believe, is not member restricted, but I can tell you for sure that the free trial does allow for you to set up your Sensorberg add-on. There's nothing preventing you in the app from going ahead and making sure that the solution works for you. And you can get started, as soon as you sign up. And like I said, you don't have to speak with one of our support specialists. You can sign up right on the website. Though we do offer also free support calls, free demo calls to get you set up and answer common questions about how to, our best practices for making sure that you have a good foundation for the rest of your user experience.
Great. And then, Jan, how's it with Sensorberg? Would it be possible to just go ahead?
I mean, it would be possible for the software part, definitely, to go ahead quickly. We have a demo environment where we could invite interested customers. For the hardware part, we also offer test cylinders, for example, or test door handles. So this can be managed as well, of course.
Cool. And I think there was another question right in the beginning. Let me check. Yeah, concerning something we are all missing, probably events. Hopefully, at some point they're coming back. Quite optimistic here for the end of the summer. So, how has been worked before the pandemic, and how will it work again after we are safe again here when we have events? And with Cobot and Sensorberg, is there any way to deal with it?
Yes, I mean, yeah, Sam, you go, please.
No, I was going to say, I think this is definitely a question for both of us, but what I could speak to is a little bit on our end, best practices, and I can share my screen again for a second.
Sure.
Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, great. So what we have a system in Cobot for events, and here's where you can offer either free, paid events to members, non-members, etc. And I think the really key point of this question for our software has to do with the space itself. So let's say that we were looking at my favorite event, chess boxing. One of the things we set up in here is that if we were to say, edit this, events can be linked to areas of your space and have access to areas of the space. So resources can be linked to a place that has, say, a lock on the outside. Members should automatically get access. I believe, Jan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The part here that you have to be aware of is that for non-members to get access. So say we're offering this up, it's a paid event. We want it to be publicly accessible. Oh, I guess this one's members only, but let's say it's not members only. If we wanted other people to be able to attend, we would have to create a free plan within Cobot. And these plans would then be offered to people to sign up. So that plan could be linked to different resources within the space and different access permissions. That's my understanding of it, Jan. Tell me if I've gotten anything wrong.
Yes, of course, it's a good way to manage it, definitely, to be able to let people in for your events with Cobot on one side and Sensorberg on the other side, unlocking the doors, definitely. Yeah, I mean, otherwise, what we can also do, like for members that don't want to download an app to open up doors, you could also hand out cards or fobs to open up doors to spaces or event rooms in the end. You just have to keep in mind collecting cards is another thing you have to think about. And for this, of course, the app is more convenient because you could just revoke access rights through the platform, whereby cards, you really need to physically meet with the person.
Perfect. I think that was great response to this question, and even a little demo for this, which is great. Are there any other questions? I mean, we have still a bit of time, so don't be afraid, guys. Now it's time to talk to the experts here.
Sure.
Otherwise,
we could just hang out and talk too, but while we're here, might as well.
Otherwise, I maybe from your experience, guys. Are there any questions coming up to your mind which you're often dealing with? I mean, Jan, you're talking directly to customers. Sam, maybe you know some questions, support, or your sales is dealing with usually.
I mean, from my side, it's often about technical functionalities, like talking about the doors, what kind of doors can be steered or opened up with Sensorberg, and then the answer usually is pretty much every door. We could open up electrified doors, elevators, lockers, parking gates, you name it. As long as there's an electrical contact, we can steer it with our hardware. On the other hand, for mechanical doors, retrofit solutions, if the doors can't be wired, we just go ahead and we have digital cylinders or door handles that would just be mounted to the door very easily. And then those are battery powered. So in the end, we can really open up every door and whatever is needed. So there are really no limitations. Also, it doesn't really matter if there's internet or not, because the door opening just works with Bluetooth. I mean, if there's internet, IP unlock for the online hardware would go through. It also depends on which signal is there the fastest. So it would be either the IP signal or it be the Bluetooth signal. But of course, if you're in a cellar without internet connection, you could also open up the door. So yeah, this usually the questions that come up.
I mean, Jan, as far as security, oh, sorry, Mario, do you have something to say?
No, that's all right.
I was gonna say, as far as security goes, I know we've talked about it a little bit before, but like, what happens if the internet goes out, if you run out of internet service and like, you don't want somebody to have access anymore, or if somebody isn't supposed to have access and they're trying to get around the system. I know one of the big features is security, and this is what people are still concerned about. So how does it respond with basically internet signal?
Exactly. So this was a little bit what I was talking about. So if there's no internet signal, the door opening would still work. Generally, you have to distinguish in the Sensorberg world between online hardware and offline hardware. Online hardware just means that access rights can be distributed in real time, whereby offline hardware does the caching, and with the online hardware, in case it is offline, it still works, which is a great security feature. So if your building network goes down, people could still access the door because the door opening would function via Bluetooth, and the last access rights would be saved on the access control hardware. If you even go a step further, for example, we've done this with banking customers. They really have really high security demands. So there we could also, or we have also gone ahead and just installed a local network which isn't connected to the internet, and it's the own Sensorberg network on premise. So this would be also possible.
Great. And I think this also already covered partly, at least, the question from Andreas. He's actually asking, what's the advantage of using Sensorberg compared to other access providers integrated with Cobot? Jan, maybe you can elaborate a bit on this.
Sure, sure. I mean, for once, we pretty much have the deepest integration available with Cobot. So as we're showing, you can really link your plans to resources or doors in Sensorberg, making them bookable and everything. And you just have to imagine if you go one step further, I mean, you get the integration with Sensorberg, you can open up the doors, manage it with Cobot. But if you want to go one step further with Sensorberg, you could also enable different use cases or further use cases. Like you could go ahead and steer the light, for example, or also heating, or you could steer blinds. Nowadays, also CO2 level is very, very important. We could set up CO2 measuring sensors to kind of monitor the air quality. So there are really no limits in use cases. It's with Sensorberg, it's more than access control, and Cobot sets the perfect base for managing everything.
Cool. There's actually another question. It's about actually time tracking. So is the time within a meeting room or certain space being logged in the backend? For example, regarding the cleaning staff here. And second part of the question, does the app show you when the time in the room is over?
It would be definitely possible to see during which time somebody accessed a certain space. But in the end, the operator really decides what happens with the data. So the data could also be anonymized, but it would be also possible to connect with an email address, for example, and you would see who was in the space at what time, which in pandemic times can be also a big help, actually. If somebody who's infected entered the space, then you could kind of see which days or what time he was there or she, and then also warn other members who were in the space on the same day.
Yeah, and I'll say, so I'm a little unclear about some of the specifics of this question, but I can say that Cobot does track all of this stuff in the booking calendar as well. So you can see a list of who's been where and who's at what place. And one of the things I didn't say about the events is that it also books that off in the calendar. So if, say, you have something going on in a meeting room, it's automatically inaccessible to members from that point on. So it's all keeping track of it together through our side of it. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not 100% clear, for example, for the cleaning staff, that part of the question. But yeah, the app does say, I mean, you have a pretty clear calendar view, and that's something that the members can view as well. So they can see exactly who's using what resources at what time and when they're available.
Okay, great. And could you guys also tell a bit about, I mean, obvious, people also are wondering, are there any cost savings you can get from using a digital system instead, I don't know, of using Excel sheets or keys? Maybe there are also some case studies or available.
Yeah, for sure. We got case studies on the Sensorberg website, breaking down use cases for co-working operators. It's real spaces actually set up with Sensorberg and Cobot. For example, Beta House, you can go ahead and download this case study to get some detailed numbers. But in the end, you just have to think about how much time are you really spending on distributing keys, how many keys are lost every year, how many locks need to be changed, how many cards are lost. So all this cost adds up, and in the end, for this digital system can really make sense, especially also with the management system. I mean, Sam can talk on this a bit more, but I think it definitely makes sense instead of using different tools and separate Excel sheets and lists where everything is not together. It really makes sense to use a management system to have a better overview and in the end also save.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the time savings right there are probably enough to justify the installation and usage of the integration. I'd also say that one of the things that isn't factored into just that equation, though, is the security advantages and the way that this will become a sales pitch for your space. So a lot of businesses, these ones that used to have traditional office space but are now moving into the world of flex offices, are now moving into co-working, are looking at these benefits and looking at where they want to put their workers. I think strong security is one of the key selling points, because a lot of these companies aren't used to having their employees interacting with other people, and specifically having their computers possibly accessible at lunch to people from outside of the company, or maybe paperwork or different elements of this sort of secure system where there's now, oh, there's permeable borders. People are all interacting in the kitchen. They're all interacting here or there. If you say we have keys, now the key system is not very secure. I think in Germany, maybe a little bit more secure, but I know in the United States and other countries, it's quite easy to duplicate keys. It's quite easy to get through unsecure locks. There are lots of security vulnerabilities, and that's just a non-starter for a lot of these people who are looking for where to work. If you say, well, we have this incredibly secure access system, it's based on your controls. If somebody's not a member anymore, they instantly lose access. If you rent out the meeting room, you're the only person who's going to be able to access that meeting room during that time. These are huge draws, and that's going to bring in more revenue as well.
Absolutely. Also, to be able to offer 24/7 access, right? So this really also distinguishes you from other spaces. I think that's a great thing with a digital system. And also having an app, you can really go ahead and brand your workspace. You can really send out messages, for example, to your coworkers, also what's happening in the space, and really build a strong customer base and community in the end.
And I don't know, is there any minimum minimum of doors you want to secure with Sensorberg? That it makes actually sense to use it. I guess, I mean, for Cobot, it's also for quite a small space with, I don't know, 10 to 20 people, it makes probably sense to use it. How's it? Correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, but how's it with Sensorberg?
I mean, I think it makes sense. I was just talking earlier about the space in our neighborhood that I know uses access control for just one door. And I think that their use case is like, okay, well, yeah, if they had to get everyone keys, they could probably do it. They probably know everybody in their space. But what it's really about is freeing up managers' time. You know, they don't have a lot of employees. They don't really have employees. And what it means is, okay, well, they don't have to be there at all times to let people in and out. They don't have to coordinate with people when somebody books a room. They don't have to coordinate when people are trying to split the space. And especially now during COVID times, when we have more strict access restrictions in terms of how many people can actually go into the space. So the booking calendar and these sorts of understandings between people about when different members are allowed to access the space, it's really important that there's some method for keeping people in and out of the right times. And even on one door, for their use case, it makes a lot of sense, and for a very small membership base.
Yeah. I think from Sensorberg perspective, equipping only one door doesn't make so much sense. I mean, it's possible, of course, we can also do it, but in the end, you really have to think about the cost if it's worth to set up one door. But what we see and what we can recommend is often the smaller spaces are more rural areas, and they're close together, for example, or cities, for example, too. And then they could just offer their members working from different spaces. And then it makes sense again, getting in Sensorberg, because with one platform, you could manage several spaces. And then you might have 5 or more doors, and then it really makes sense to set up the Sensorberg system. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably continuing a couple of more hours listening to you guys. It's been great so far. I think we had a lot of very exciting topics in the beginning, from talking about the current situation, how what has changed actually, what's the status of digitization, and it's a great video how a fully digitized space could look like, what are the use cases here, and The integration with Cobot and Sensorberg was pretty clear, I guess. We even covered some live demos of questions like the events. So thanks a lot. Also to all the attendees and all, yeah, the great questions. I think there were some really good detailed questions already coming up. And if you want to continue the discussion, just reach out to us. We are available by our website, LinkedIn, wherever you want to reach out to us. And yeah, thanks to Sam, thanks to Jan, and maybe a last statement concerning your vision of the workspace, flex and co-working environment. What is your opinion here? How will it look like in, I don't know, 2 to 3 years?
Thanks for having us. Definitely, I think the flex office spaces will continue to just develop. Will be more and more flex office around, and managing it with a digital system, you can be really future-proof. You can even monetize on that. You can come up with new business models. We see like renting out lockers, for example, offering mobility services, or maybe even food services. So I think flex office is really something that we need to watch out for, not only now, but also in the future.
Yeah, Mario, thank you so much. And Jan, thanks for being here as well. I'm just so happy to be here chatting about co-working, anytime really. But what I'd say for my vision of the future, I'm not a fortune teller, so I can't be very specific, but I'm really excited. I think a lot of us at Cobot are really excited. We have always had benefits to go and use co-working spaces in our company, but we're seeing it everywhere. More and more people are entering into this world, and it's exciting to see what that's meant for spaces already, and knowing that we don't know a lot means that I'm very excited to see what people come up with. I know for sure technology is going to become a bigger part. It's going to become more prominent in terms of co-working spaces that previously might have been hesitant to use some of these tools that were available to them. But as far as the actual dynamic, I'm just excited to see more people get into the movement. More and more spaces. The more spaces there are, the more unique things they're going to try and do, the more ideas we're going to get. And just, I see lots of upsides for the next couple of years. Great.
Yeah, really great. And I think it's, we also made it quite on time, almost an hour. Was a pleasure again. Thank you so much. And yeah, hope to talk to you soon, Sam. And great partnership so far with Cobot and Sensorberg. And I think we made already a couple of clients happy, and we will continue this. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Have a nice day and see you soon. And yeah, you will find our webinar on YouTube, as I said before. Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.